And let's continue that conversation with our panelists as of now. Jerry, start with you and continue that conversation. When do you think we're going to get out of this? I knew you were dreading that, but I mean, is there a foreseeable future when we will get out of where we are now?
I think the odds are pretty good that we will see the 2010 economy doing substantially better than it did last year. We're predicting growth of the state economy of a little under 3% this year, and employment growth maybe closer to 1%. So that's happening in the coming 11 months, let's say, that we expect this to take place, but that's not much growth by historic standards. There have been months a few years ago where we'd add say 30,000 jobs to the economy in 1 month, and we're predicting about that much for the whole year for Indiana. So it's going to be a slow recovery. We'll see good gains this year because last year was so weak that it's not hard to get good improvement. But beyond that, 2011, 2012, I think we're going to see continued slow growth with a lot of risk still that things could stall depending on shocks to the overall economy.
And Ron, if I can go to you, one of the ways that we can make those kinds of growths, you think we need to stay with life sciences and life science training, is that correct?
I think that that's a very strong route for us to take because the industry's growing, the jobs are good, Indiana seems to be faring well, Monroe County and Bloomington seem to be very strong in those areas, so I think it's a good bet for us to continue down that path. That's an industry of tremendous growth for a number of reasons. It's not the only place, we can't put all of our eggs in that basket. Just in the last 24 hours, I've talked with 2 manufacturers here that are growing in 2010. Working with an IT company that's growing this year. We have several actually. So there are many good signs locally, and we follow what the economists like Dr. Conover and others will provide for us, but we also talk with businesses and say, how does it look for you? And this year does appear to be, there appears to be a lot more optimism and more activity for them, so that's a good sign for us.
Speaking of optimism, I really wanted to get to the point of tourism in terms of sports tourism. Amy, if we could, we have a lot of good news coming our way for the Hoosier State. Talk about briefly, if you can, how we got to this point and, you know, what we expect in terms of dollars really to come out of things like the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Well, I think Indianapolis laid fantastic groundwork years ago, of course, as the amateur sports capital, and we've seen great success with NCAA events, now with the Super Bowl coming. Statewide also, we work with convention visitors bureaus across the state, and many of them are now really pursuing youth sports because it also seems to be fairly recession-proof, that even in hard times, people still want to be involved with their children in their extracurricular sporting activities. So we just see a tremendous upside to sports tourism in general. Oftentimes you're getting, you know, fairly good big groups of people coming in for multiple days, and of course the longer they stay, the more money they spend. It's a great way to track that spending as well. So I definitely see sports tourism as making a lot of sense for Indiana, really across the state.
And the news just came out this week that we're being thought of as a possible destination for the World Cup. That's pretty huge as well.
Tremendous opportunity.
All right. Well, Dr. Conover, let's talk a little bit about what we can do in terms of as Hoosiers, in terms of expectations. We talked a little bit about the taxes. You know, our government leaders do not want to raise taxes. We understand that, but there's a point where we just cannot keep going forward without raising taxes?
Well, nobody wants to pay more taxes if they feel they don't have to, but what the taxpayers, ultimately the voters, have to decide is what are they willing to give up if they don't want taxes to go up. Government services can be pared down here and there, and at many levels they have been. There's no doubt still some more room for improvement, but are we willing to have less responsive street departments, fewer officers on the road patrolling the streets and the highways, maybe not as quick response time to other public safety needs? What about educating our workforce, our kids in K-12 levels as well as our higher education to carry out the jobs that we anticipate are going to be in demand tomorrow?
Yeah, and
How do you do that without investing significantly to prepare the workforce and to provide the quality of life aspects that bring people here and make them want to stay.
All right, well, we will end on that note, that very good note. Thanks so much for joining us for our first In Focus of 2010. And of course, our group of panelists, you were wonderful and gave us great insight. And John Fernandez, of course, for joining us by satellite. Stan, thanks for your help tonight as well.
And thank you. I'm going to go contribute some money to the local economy, I think.
Okay, good. Post your question for the next month at infocus@indiana.edu, or if you would like to participate in a blog, leave a comment, or see portions of this show, please visit our website, indianapublicmedia.org/infocus. Well, February is Black History Month, and we'll discuss questions and concerns about race relations and diversity after President Obama's first year in office on the next In Focus. Have a great night.
Production support for In Focus is provided by Smithville, a locally owned business serving central and southern Indiana since 1922, with residential and business internet, voice, and security services. Smithville, local pride, global technology. Information at smithville.net. Hoosier Energy, providing electricity for central and southern Indiana electric cooperatives and their member customers. Information at hpen.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you.